right, so we'll have some opportunity for a couple of questions. Do we have any questions in the audience?
A question for you is the rebuildability of it. So, if we run high hours, second life, do you have anything thought up there?
So when we were designing many of the components on this engine, and I'll use the cylinder head as an example, we've intentionally designed it for second, maybe even third lives. So whereas before, we didn't have that option or capability, when we designed this engine, many of its components are able to be rebuilt for reman going through that entire process. Pistons, injectors, cylinder head, and other components.
Question on the engine rating side for duty cycle. Prior, you did the A to D to get the different horsepower ranges. Because this is over a broader horsepower range, is it still an A to D rating? And can you walk through that?
Yeah, so very similar to the past. We'll continue to refer to our duty cycles in terms of A to D tier. Like you said, we will cover some broader ranges with those A to D tier. So that 690 horsepower, 515 kilowatts that we talked about would be like our D tier. A tier would start at 340 horsepower, and then it'll kind of be equal spacing in between.
My name is Kimmo Anttila. I'm representing Metso Outotec, and we are using the Caterpillar engines successfully. Thanks for that. My question is related about the increased service interval. Where does that actually come from?
How do we get the increased service
Yeah,
interval?
absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, great question, and it's a relatively easy but hard answer. It's good old-fashioned engineering. We talked about going out and talking to our customers about what was important, and we looked at what our competition were doing, and we know that that O&O cost, how much you have to pay to make the engine do the work that you need it to do is important. And service interval was one that we heard about. We said, we heard our customers saying, taking the engine down to have to service the oil or to change the fuel filters, that's just money out of our pockets. So can we extend that? Can we extend that time? And so we really put in some good old-fashioned engineering to try and do that. And it's things like reducing the oil consumption of the engine so that we can extend the intervals, reducing the emissions that are coming out of the engine so we're putting less soot into the oil, improving the filtration efficiencies of the engine such that we have greater capacity and we can also extend the intervals, and then designing the filter sizes to be appropriate. So it's a lot of those things that come together to allow us to extend those intervals. And then there's some other things like, one of the things we're really proud of is we have a breather option on this engine now that doesn't require a serviceable filter. So the technology that we've utilized is completely self-contained. You don't ever have to replace that crankcase breather filter anymore. So that's another example of how we're trying to really maximize the value that we're providing to our customers.
So one of the questions that you may be wondering is, where are we in the development cycle now?
So as both Mark and Bill mentioned, we've been working on this engine for several years, and we're excited to publicly talk about it. We are going to begin in-field testing soon. So we're going to have test engines out in different applications in forestry, ag, and construction. So that's happening right now. We expect to have pilot engines for our customers to put in their machines in 2025 for 2026 commercial sale. But I guess an important point is that we are available immediately right here at ConExpo to start talking about aligning your development programs for your equipment with the C13D. We'll get alignment on your machine and the engine and parallel path that development so you're ready in a couple of years if your development cycle is imminent. So we're ready to begin those discussions today.
So building on that question and answer, how do I know that it will work? And what if I don't want to be the guinea pig?
Well, Mark said it'll work. But I'm going to let Bill answer that because he spends a lot of time at the Tech Center Labs, which is just a wonderful place. I'll tell you what, if you're a CAT customer and you'd like a tour of our Tech Center Lab in Illinois, we would love to give you a private tour to see where this development happens. But can you talk a little bit about our lab hours?
Absolutely. We don't want you to be a guinea pig either. When you think about how daunting it is to try and replace 3 iconic engines that, like Mark said, have been with us for 30 plus years, that's something that we don't take lightly. That's the reason we've invested the time and energy and effort that we have. This beautiful engine that I have sitting with me here on the stage, believe it or not, is a test engine. Now, we dolled it up a little bit to bring it to the show, but that engine right there ran 1,500 hours before we retired it and gave it to our marketing crew to make it pretty for us. The engine back there says you walked by, there was something undercover, and you'll be able to go back and get hands-on with that engine. That engine back there we purposely left in its more raw form. It's kind of the rat rod look, if you will. Another engine that's over 1,000 hours on it. So collectively, we've run more than 12,000 hours and counting on the engines that we've developed to this point. I'm excited to say that we now have our first engine with customer getting ready to hit the field imminently within the next few months. And so we are super excited. We're going to have run tens of thousands of hours in the lab and tens of thousands of hours in the field before these pilot engines that David talked about are going to be available for you. So you won't have to be the guinea pig. We're going to have done that work up front. We're going to be confident these engines are going to be able to fulfill the grand legacy of a Caterpillar engine that you've come to expect, live up to that heavy-duty expectation that we have.